got another message for you. And that message is, I am waiting for there to be an audience for my show. If you're watching this later on the YouTube channel, I apologize. I'll post in the description where to skip to get to where the actual, stuff is. So yeah. I am live and waiting for people to watch me, 'cause that's the way I do things. Aha, I have someone in here with me. And hello! Oh, wait, no, I just see me. I've got a anonymous visitor. Well, once I get a couple more people in here, I'll actually begin the show. Because I need an audience in here to do today's show, because today's show is going to be all about, well, sculpting what the audience wants me to make. So, it is 7:58 by my clock. I'm a little early, but oh well. I has a sleepy fuzzy right here. And some of you may have noticed that right up here, where it says, stream chat and all that, it also has, you can cheer now. Because as of the other night, did a broadcast, I'm now a Twitch affiliate. So, yay! Yay! So when you come in, please go ahead, let me know that you're in here. And whoa, I got a subscription from Thank You Buzz. Awesome. Woot. You'll also discover I now have Nightbot in the channel. Nightbot, all I've got it set to do right now is, hold on a second. I forgot one thing. Yeah, one of the bar lights was tilted. Speaking of the bar lights, yeah, I don't look quite as old when they're on. Little cheapy, little on-off thing. Yeah, remote control lights are awesome. Yep, see, there he is. There he is. Nightbot just posted. Okay, so basically today's broadcast will be completely up to the audience as to what I'm going to sculpt. I should also point out that I've got something new. And some of these people who aren't here yet are going to miss it. Okay? Yeah, there's the male figure. I also have a female figure. Now, the female figure is not fully articulated yet. It is not prepared for posing or any of that. I mean, case in point, I turn on the bones. And I select the male.
You see he's got the bones going down the arms and in the right places and all that. But on the female, yeah, they're all at weird angles. That's a no-go. So what we're going to do is we're going to just remove her from the scene. And put it back to here. And we're going to go back to primary camera until I, get more people in the audience. I'm up to... Well, see, the D&D starter set, I actually don't know what the characters are in the D&D starter set. So, because I haven't used a beginner set for D&D since it was in a red box in 1981. Yeah, 1981. So, and it's one sculpt a night, unless you want this broadcast to last a long time. Yeah. Well, turn this down just a little bit. Squeechy, squeechy, squeechy kitty. You can kind of make out the heart that's on her rump. Here's the top, loop down to the bottom, and then it comes back this way. But yeah, I mean, lately I've been playing weird characters. By weird, I mean race class combos that really don't work well together. Or just make you go, what? Like a halfling barbarian. A half-orc barbarian who is not culturally a barbarian. He is just a fighter type who has a really, really bad temper. And he's a bit of a fop. Which means, he dresses wonderfully. He has a cane. I say, yes indeed. Yes, I may be a half-orc, but by golly, by gum, I'm a good man. Next Sunday after prom. That's a different, interesting time to play D&D. Well, the thing about hill dwarf versus any of the dwarf types, there's really, at this scale, there's really no way to differentiate them. That would be something that I would do. It's a dwarf with this weapon and this clothing. Yeah, it just works that way. I mean, to be honest, if I had a figure in full heavy armor with a shield and a sword, that could be a fighter, that could be a paladin. No, shield and a mace. That could be a fighter, paladin, cleric. Any number of things. Well, you don't need to worry so much about the class or the sub-race. You just need the primary race, what they're wearing, and what they're holding. I mean, case in point, one of the first ones I did was technically a high elf druid, because that's the character that it was for. It was for a person playing a high elf druid in my game. But his primary weapon was a bow. He had a leather breastplate that could be painted as metal, and a cloak with leaves on it. That could be a ranger. That could be a fighter with the archery fighting style wearing breastplate. That could be leather, if you want. It could be a barbarian with a bow. Who knows? So all that matters is, what do they look like? It's like, I don't need to know what color the hair needs to be to make a figure, because that's on you guys painting the miniature. You could paint him as a redhead. You could paint him as a brunette. You could paint him as having purple hair. All I need is the shape and the length. What kind of cut. Okay, we don't need the Lightfoot. All we need is halfling. Lightfoot is a sub-race. And I'm wondering if we can get more people in here, because I want to get more than just one person's suggestions. I want to get several people in here and get a nice range of possible things to make. Yeah. So, yeah, don't forget to let your friends know that I'm online. Yeah. Because, what is this? I'm right now on Discord trying to see if I can get people to come on in. Again, like I said, so we have Buzz Aldrin suggesting a ghoul with his Lovecraftian preferences. Really. And Brandon reading off the random character sheets from the D&D starter set. Okay, real quick. Brandon, I'm going to give you the best advice you can ever get for running a game. That is, number 1, don't argue about rules during play. Make a ruling, and that's how it's going to be until the end of that night's session. And then, after the play is over, then go back in, read the rule, and discuss with the players why you ruled what you did and whether the book supports you or not. But if you discover you were wrong about how it works, don't retcon it. That way leads to madness. Just say, okay, this is how it happened this time. In the future, we'll handle it like this. But never argue about rules during play. Let the players know of this. That you're not going to argue rules during play. You're only going to, you're going to make your ruling, you're going to move on, and then after the game session, that's when you're going to discuss how to handle that in the future, or how that rule reads, or what it says. Basically, your job as a game master is to create a framework for a story, or narrate the framework in the case of a pre-created module, and the players are the ones that are actually telling the story. You're giving them, you're the bumpers for the pinball to bounce off of, you're the targets for the archery. You want to give them a challenge, but you don't want to go in and, stomp all over 5 first level characters with 100 ogres. You're not playing against them. You're trying to... Well, let's think of it like a boxing coach. He wants to give his boxers a challenge, but he doesn't want to beat them down. Okay. So Brandon just wants one of the characters from the starter set, and Buzz wants a ghoul. Let's see. Well, don't forget, we're not limited to science fiction, to fantasy and horror. We can also do science fiction. We can also do modern day. I recently finished a modern day sculpt that I can't show because it's got some issues going. But yeah, I'm sitting here waiting for more people. There she is. Now, I'm considering making a YouTube channel coming up. And this channel would be mostly for taking the broadcast from here and putting it on YouTube as kind of a permanent thing, because on Twitch, while it does keep, the chat it only keeps them for 2 weeks. Whereas on YouTube, I put them up and they stay up. You know. So, and then I'll also have like, you know, little additional videos on, for example, why are the proportions so weird on these sculpts? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And, you know, things like that. Okay, Cyclops. The question is, do you want...
I am Polyphemus. Who are you? No one.
Or do you mean... Wolverine, get out of my way! I have to fire my optic blast! That's a couple different versions of Cyclops. You know. Plus, you know, even if it is the one-eyed monster, do you mean Polyphemus? Or do you mean the Cyclops who were the apprentices to Hephaestus in forging Zeus's thunderbolts? Yeah, Cyclops is... Also, do you mean more like, you know, just like a hill giant with one eye? Or do you mean like just monstrously huge thing, like the Emir from, not the Emir, it was the Cyclops from Ray Harryhausen. Yeah, it has like the goat legs and the horn and, yeah. Well, if we do that, just to show you, I recently added in a new race morph for the big guy. I recently added troll. Let's say 1 part troll, a little bit of ogre mixed in. And then I'd have to blend the eyes together, because that would be a little difficult. Maybe a little bit less troll, a little bit more ogre, maybe even a little bit of muscular. Make it a bit more intimidating. Rah. Zero the figure. Bing. Bing. Yeah. Well, right now, what I have is I have the deep one, dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, halfling, ogre, that's a belly, ogre, dumb ogre, the orc, the reptilian, which would be good for things like Dragonborn, and the troll, which is also big and dumb and really big. And in fact, most of the time I would probably end up shrinking that head. I think that I made the head a little bit too big. Anyway. Oh, that's something else I was going to talk about. Because they are sliders and they only go a certain percentage, I could actually sit here. In fact, let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to make one more shape without sculpting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hobgoblin. So we start off with a little bit of goblin, just to get that basic face shape, a little bit of some ears, but he's too small. So we could add a little bit of elf to make him tall. No, those ears are going way too big, too fast. So we're not going to do that. We're going to add a little bit of ogre to make him a bit bigger. But we want to make him more muscular, because we don't want our hobgoblins to be moderately intimidating, but not revolting. In fact, let's drop the muscular a little, and let's give it some orc. Yeah. There we go. And there we have a basic hobgoblin. Now just to check, I'm going to load in the basic male again, so I can make sure that he ends up being about the same size. Because the truth is, we want a hobgoblin to be about the same size as a human. Not, yeah, he's a little too big here. So we can actually go ahead and lower down that ogre a little bit. There we go. We have a hobgoblin. Let's delete the other male. Now, what will we do for our hobgoblin? How will we make a dial for that? Well, what we do, I go over here and I right-click Edit Mode, and you'll notice that now it has a whole bunch of, right up here, all these little bits and bobbles. It says M. I'm going to right-click, Create New Property, and I don't think you're going to see it. No, you're not. Okay. This property type is going to be a floating integer. We're going to call it simply Hobgoblin. And it is not going to be hidden. It is not going to be locked. Minimum value is 0. And create. Now, the thing is, right now, it's just an empty dial. Nothing happens when I turn that up or down. So we put it to 100%, and we go to the Property Hierarchy tab here on the right. And we want to go to the parameters, and there's our hobgoblin. Now we right-click, ERC freeze, and accept. Now, edit, figure, 0 figure. Now, well, actually, watch this. As I lower it, now it goes back to normal. And as I raise it, it raises all of those other dials by the proportions that I had added originally. So that is our hobgoblin dial. And hello, floating face up. Now, that's just one way. That's one of the other ways to do this. The other advantage of having all of these various dials that can be interacted and loaded with. Let's say I'm going to make a troll. Okay, but I want my troll to be a bit shorter and squatter than the default. Well, I just add in a little bit of dwarf. He becomes broader, shorter, and stockier. I want a tall, skinny D&D style troll. I add in a bit of elf. It becomes taller and thinner. I could also probably shrink the head a bit. I want a really small troll. I add in some halfling, and that ends up kind of goofy looking. If I want it to be a giant troll, I add in some ogre. And now we have a troll that's positively titanic, but probably a little too fat. Thankfully, we can sculpt that away. Now, adding in some orc makes him a bit fiercer and lifts that nose a bit. And in general, add in some hobgoblin. Now, in general, we just go ahead and play around and mix and match to get interesting shapes. I mean, imagine if we had an amphibious troll with some deep one added in. He becomes more of a hunchback, his head becomes longer, and the ears become smaller, and the feet become flappier. Flappy feet, not to be confused with Flappy Bird. Or we add in some reptilian. what we end up with doesn't look reptilian, but it does have more of a, more of a hooked nose. You open the mouth, more of a snout to him, and his legs become almost triple jointed. Let's close the mouth. And let's shrink everything back to normal. So, does anyone who has joined in the past couple of minutes have any suggestions for what kind of sculpt we're going to do today? Like I said, it could be a fantasy D&D character. It could be a science fiction character. It could be a superhero. It could be a modern day horror, whatever. It could be almost anything. Just give me some ideas. The only problem is, until I finish the rigging of the female figure, it's gonna be a guy. And making non-humanoid, humanoid, torso, 2 legs, 2 arms, head. Making non-humanoids is hard. You got to pretty much make each one individually. So, we're sticking to humanoids, male. Okay, a dragonborn, but a dragonborn what? For example, I'm currently playing a dragonborn druid in a D&D game. And I made a dragonborn druid. Yes, he's holding a kukri instead of a scimitar, but that's, Let me go ahead and get you all a close-up. Yeah, Dragonborn Druid. He's huge because I rolled maximum height and maximum weight for when I created him. Anyway, that's that. So Dragonborn, what class? What is he wearing? What's he holding? What kind of personality do I want to, manifest through his pose and his expression? Because I can do that. Yay! And hey, object. All right. What is this? Okay. Let's go ahead and go back to here and just kind of, like I said, okay, we got 5 people in the chat. 5. Bring. And of those, I think at least one of them is me. At least one. Let's see. If I do an yeah, one of them's me, and one of them's Nightbot. I have Brandon, floating face up, and object. Buzz Aldrin isn't showing up for some reason. Oh, that's because he said he'll be back in a few, right as I did that symbol thing. Oh, yay. Anyway. So, get some soda. And yes, your 3D printer is useful for more than just miniatures. As a side note, because of issues with Thingiverse right now, the link that is being given out below by Nightbot works. But if you go to my profile, then you click on collections, it says 2, but it only shows things to make, which is empty. Design says 31, but it doesn't show anything past February 12th. Pretty much right now, there's issues with Thingiverse's database. So, if you use that link, it'll take you to the broadcast booth, the collection. But if you don't use it, you won't be able to find it. Welcome back. Did you hear my little spiel about the about Thingiverse and its issues with its database right now, Buzz? Yes, there's some serious lag. Yeah, like I said, basically the database appears broken. If you click the link that Nightbot posted somewhere up around in here, then it will actually take you to the collection, and you can go straight to the items in the broadcast miniatures collection. But if you go to my profile, you can't get to anything past February 2nd. Blech. Anyway, so we have had the suggestion of a Hildorf cleric and a halfling rogue and a dragonborn who knows what and a ghoul. Now, the Hildorf cleric and the halfling rogue, I don't need to know their classes and their races, or well, and sub-race. I need to know, they're a Hildorf and a halfling. What are they wearing? What is their primary weapon? If they're not wearing armor, then it's clothes, obviously. And with the Dragonborn, we need a good bit more than just Dragonborn. We need to have a class, not so much class, but we need to have, what are they wearing? Armor? So what kind? What weapon are they carrying? Are they carrying a shield? Are they a farmer? Yeah, so, and the ghoul, well, do you mean a classic ghoul, which is really in D&D is almost indistinguishable from a zombie? Or do you mean a Lovecraftian ghoul, which is more canine in appearance? Dragonborn priest. Again, I would need something a bit more than just the class. I'd need to know, what are they wearing? What's their primary weapon? What would they have in their hands? Maybe holding out some symbol, with their mace over their shoulder and the shield on their back or something. I don't know. Oh, we're losing people. I need to get something soon. Yeah. So yeah, some more of the canine look to the head, where it's kind of more of a snout and the ears, and it's not so much... Now, Lovecraft's ghouls are not undead. They are living. They're just cannibalistic monsters that some of which can grow pretty big. I mean, Pickman's model. The creature that was Pickman's model was like 15, 20 feet tall. Or, no, 10 or 15 feet tall. And of course he was painting from photographs from life. Okay, it is 8:30. I have 5 people in here. Oh, I did not tell Nightbot to not let links in. Nightbot's being mean. I did not tell it. Okay. Spam protection. Disable. Okay, go to the dashboard. Give me just 1 second. Left the channel. Or Nightbot has left the channel. And join the channel. And there, that should help. Okay, so in my Discord it says, yeah, but you see, yeah, they have that canine muzzle look to them, but they are living things. They are nasty, they're stanky, but they're living. Now, so, like I said, right now we've got that whole possible array. And we have another good friend of mine in, Chris Palomino. Chris, we're trying to decide what I'm going to be sculpting tonight. Right now the options are a dwarven priest, which, you know, the class doesn't tell me much. I need to know what he's wearing, what he's holding. A halfling, roguey, thiefy type. A dragonborn of some kind. And a Lovecraftian ghoul. Do any of those sound pretty good to you? And we also have a visitor from a Ralph. Do you mind, Ralph? I'm trying to broadcast here. Yes, I'm trying to broadcast up here. Meow. No, you can't get to the microphone. I'm going to have to put you down a little bit. Ah, will you go down? Ah, there we go. Blah. Okay. Another thing about Lovecraftian ghouls is that they're often shown, like in the link that Buzz Aldrin posted, as having, well, triple jointed legs, what's called digitigrade legs. Now, I will say this, I'm not going to make it naked. I'm going to have it wearing like torn pants or something. But what we need to do then is we need to figure out what's the best way to turn our basic male into a ghoul. Well, one of the first things is I'm going to go ahead and use the reptilian base morph. The reason being is this is closer in shape to what is shown there in the image, which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and open this up and put a save image as desktop ghoul. And then I'm going to post it into, or put it in here. So, add source, media file, desktop, and ghoul, where is it? DEF. Yes, I got way too much. This is the ghoul that was suggested, or the sample image for a ghoul. And that's pretty nasty, huh? So, now the closest thing I have to that is, of course, the reptilian basic body shape. Now, he's not going to have any kind of weapon, so we're going to basically worry about posing him. Now, as I've said before, this is an original geometry figure that I created. You can see the wireframe here. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him into a pose and then export him as an object file. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open the mouth a little bit. No, open the mouth a little bit because he's going to have his nasty teethies visible. And let's make him angry. Play with these brows. That's a bit too far. So, that is just the basic shape. Now, we're obviously going to have him posed in such a way that he is crouching and he's looking nasty. So, well, no, I don't want to add elf for the ears because that would make him as a whole skinnier. Maybe a little bit of elf just to bring the ears back, but not a lot. And I can stretch them out from the rest of the head, but a little bit of muscular to counteract that elf because it's gonna make him kind of Yeah. And there we have our basic ghoul shape. Now, what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead. We're going to side to side them so that he's standing mostly straight. Because we're going to do something similar to what those... Oops! See, this is what happens when you turn off limits. Or when you don't have limits. Okay. Now, let's go ahead. I'm going to pin these. What that means is that technically these are as close to unmoving as they can be. I'm then going to select the hip and go to the left view. With the hip selected, I take the move tool and I'm going to kind of go ahead obviously there's going to be work needing to be done on those feet. Now, I twist the leg. Kind of rotates out. And then we're going to rotate the hip. Oops, no. We're going to unpin everything. And then when we rotate the hip, we're going to have to bend the legs simultaneously to make them, bring them back up. And we're going to go left view again. Bend. We're going to twist the feet. No, not that, like that. Yeah, those that butt's going to be reshaped. Actually, I know what I'll do. I'll go ahead. This leg will go back. I'm going to untwist that leg. Yeah. I'm going to have to bend the toes now. And twist this. Now we hit Control D and it drops us to the side. This drops us to the floor, and we can see the floor but barely. So we're going to bend the toe, move over, and bend this toe. And hit Control D again. Yeah. And back to perspective. Now, I'm going to take the abdomen. I'm going to twist it. Bend it slightly. And side to side slightly. And I'm going to do a bend back, but more twist and more side to side. Then I'm going to bring the arm kind of forward and down a little. Then this arm, this part of the arm back and out. And right now, that arm is like this. What I need to do is I need to rotate it a bit more like that so I can bend it back. So we twist it, we bend, and then we twist again, and we bend the hand. Now, as you can see, that doesn't quite get us where we want with the hand on the ground or near the ground. I bend it a bit more. Okay, now side to side and shoulder bend. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and curl the fingers. But especially this side of the fingers. And once again, we're gonna make those thicker when we do. Alright, and we're gonna basically move this thumb so that, oh, way too far. What happened to that thumb? I'm gonna twist it side to side and bend that. Okay, that's that hand, and then we're gonna go ahead and twist the neck and bring it up a bit, and then bend the head back. Now, we've already got it in pose to where it's like stepping forward. I'm an idiot. I am an utter idiot. And 0, 0, 0. The reason why it's not working is because I had the torso bending the wrong way. And I wasn't looking, and yeah. Chris, I'm using just, I just rigged it in Dad's Studio. It's a normal normal figure. I just created it. Now I'm just bending and twisting as I go. I twisted it in the wrong direction. So now, let's go ahead and let's see, if we go from the front view, did that bring us? No, he's still not quite at the ground, so let's bring him a little bit more. And it's abdomen, just a little bit more side to side. No, a little bit more bend. Chest a little bit more side to side. Or wrong way. A little bit more. Yeah. Now we'll go ahead. Perspective. We're going to bend it back a bit more. and twist it a bit. And we check on the front view again. It's still not touching. There we go. Perspective view. Now let's go ahead and once again, let's twist that head. And we're going to go side to side this way to bring it back. And we're going to bend the head itself back. We're going to take the shoulder on this one. We're going to bring it down a bit, not a lot, and forward. And then bring down the arm. Bend it. No, that looks too much. No. Let's untwist the torso a bit. And not quite as much abdomen bend. Okay. Now. Yeah, we have to completely rechange the position of the arm and hand because we did that. Also, we need to change the toe. We need to twist the toe a little bit. And unbend the left shin to bring that foot closer to the ground. Now, we're back to a problem of the arm is not reaching the ground. Maybe if we take the chest and we go side to side a bit more. Not quite that much. Yeah. Now we can unbend that arm. Twist it a bit. Unbend that, twist it, and take the fingers and bend them a little bit because we're going to make it into a claw. Okay. This is the base geometry we're going to be sculpting our ghoul on. The next concern is, will this mount on a base properly? So I'm just going to go ahead and import a base. Now you can't see the windows that pop up, but yeah, this is just be going through raw base, and yes, the toes and hand will fit onto a single base, so that's no good. That's not bad, rather. Delete raw base. Now I'm going to take this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load in deep blunt teeth. Let's see if it works well for. Well, we gotta obviously change their positioning and scale. So we go to parameters. We choose the bottom teeth. We're gonna Z translate. We're gonna X rotate, and we're gonna Y translate. Then we're going to scale it down just a little. We're going to select the upper teeth. Now by Z translate, basically we're going in and out. Yeah, I think it works. I chose the deep one teeth instead of the orc tusks because it's more like the teeth in that sample image. Now, I'm just going to go ahead, File, Export, and I'm going to export it to my broadcast miniatures. Excuse me. That's Lovecraft Ghoul Basic. Now, I'm going to go ahead and switch to ZBrush. And yes, Chris, I have these already open and running while I'm doing this. It's going to cause me some issues eventually. Anyway, so first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and import, and I'm going to I am going to the directory that I saved that in and looking for it, Lovecraft Ghoul Basic, and here is the basic shape for our Lovecraft Ghoul. Yay! And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to append, and I'm going to import that basic base that he's going to be standing on. This mostly so that I can make sure that I keep it in position. Let's zoom in, and we're going to offset it on the Y. Whoops. A little bit more. Oh, too much. There. Zoom back out, and this is what we've got. Now, one of the first things we're going to do is we've got to go ahead and we've got to make this thing a little bit and get rid of some of the issues that cropped up in the posing, because I didn't exactly have a perfect articulation. So for that, I've got, yay, Wacom. Thank you, Wacom. And one of the first things that just jumps out at me is the wrist. So what I'm going to do, up here, I am going to first of all turn off lazy mouse for this tool at this point in time. And I'm going to pull out that, and then I'm going to smooth it a bit until it blends in a little bit better. And that gets rid of most of the issues I've got here, but it's still a little inflated, so it's bring it out some. Now, anytime you're sculpting, one of the biggest things you need to remember, besides don't click on the history bar, is that you want to do your large-scale shapings on a lower resolution. Adding, like if I decided I was going to go ahead and add in scales, I would do that on a higher resolution. But doing this, okay, let's go ahead and get the stroke and the brush palettes out, because I am going to use them. Where was it? No. Okay. And then stroke, where was it? Modifiers. Nope. Where was it? I saw it. There's one that lets me ignore the... Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to... Whoa, way too strong. Bring that intensity down a lot. I'm going to pull out the calf. And I'm going to make it a little bit smoother and more relaxed because I don't want it to be sharp-edged. Let's increase the intensity. Ooh. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to inflate that part. Alright. Now, let's inflate the thigh. Or the... I guess you could call this a pastern. Chris, would that be about the right answer? Would that be calling it a pastern? I mean, it's not going to have a hoof. It's going to have like, it's going to be somewhat similar to a hoof, but it's going to be more like two claws. Okay. Frame. And I need to go back in and inflate there just to make sure that everything's all good. And as you can see, right now, there's really not that much that's really changing. Again, I'm fixing some errors from the posing process. Another error is right here in the hip. And that's going to be dealt with the smooth brush, followed by inflate. Actually, no, inflate is causing the problems to return. So, let's deflate. Oh, yes, we can deflate too. Right in here. And smooth that. And then we're going to go back to the standard brush and reinflate it. But this time, instead of inflating, it's being pulled out. And I'm going to go ahead and smooth inside the leg just a little bit. Now you'll notice I haven't done... Oh, there's something else that needs to be done. I need to bring out the butt. Bring out the butt. Gotta show that butt. Anyway, I better not do that. That's not a good thing. Now, a lot of the details on the legs I'm not going to do because he is going to be wearing those jeans. Well, yeah, jeans. Or otherwise torn trousers. But one of the things about it is that will happen after I give it what's called a brain goes dynamesh. Alright, we're going to move this particular vertex because it's going to cause an... Shrink this down there. Okay. Now, let's round off the edge of the cheek. I don't mean... I don't mean the facial cheeks. Alright. The basic shape is ready. Except we need to make the ears bigger. Well, we have the move topological brush already gotten. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab that ear, drag it out a bit more. So I'm going to grab this one, drag it out a bit more. We're also going to grab the bottom of it and pull down. We're also going to shrink this, grab here, and we're actually going to, well, no, not here. Grab that, we're going to pull up a bit. Because right now those, it's like ear flaps that are closed. And we want to open them. And now the next thing we do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a little bit of smoothing because it's got some issues there. And then we're going to inflate along the top edge. Shrink it down some more. Oh, inflate, add along the top edge. That's too much. And then once we've done that, we're going to smooth that right there just to make it pointy again. Now, just to make it a bit more like a brush and a bit more like an ear and less like a horn, we're going to drag some of it down and out. And then we're going to hollow that just a bit. And do the same over here. We want it to be an ear, not a horn. Frame the result so we can get a good look at it from the side. And we need to move actually no, the collarbones came out pretty decently, but we do need to move this right here. Because that's not where that muscle ends up. With a quickie sculpt of the original biology, things kind of ended up occasionally getting in weird spots. I tried to make the anatomy as appropriate as I could, but it didn't always come out right. And let's expand it just a bit, just so it blends together. Now this is going to be a nightmare of edge flow right now, but on the other hand, that edge flow will be fixed to an extent in just a little bit, and we need to, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off that base. The next step is going to actually be to give the basic direction of the toes, and I really need to be able to see the toes as I'm doing it. We're going to go back to move topological. This time we're going to use this focal shift and make it more pointy. We're going to shrink it to about there. I'm going to grab the toe. Oh, that wasn't the toe. The toe. No, we need to make it bigger and a little bit higher intensity. Grab that toe, grab that toe. Then we grab this toe. Oh, that wasn't the toe. This toe. And then we grab that toe. And the end result, we're going to go ahead and hit with inflate. Now, right now as things stands, the feet are almost flat with the base. After I hit this with inflate, they're going to swell into the base. That is perfectly fine. And again, some of these details will be fixed at a higher resolution. Alright, now frame. The next thing to do, I'm going to kind of seal the mouth with these teeth. Okay? What I mean by that is I'm going to shrink the brush a bit again. When I do what's called the when I do what's called the Dynamesh, it's going to take everything currently visible and make them one mesh, just as it sounds. When that happens, if these teeth are covering each other up completely with no gaps, then what will happen is it will make this mouth interior not an issue. Now I'm going to hit Control Shift, tap it. Oh look, I have just the teeth. But we don't want them. I want to see this. And once again, I'm going to pull them out. Because what I want to happen is I want them to blend into the other teeth when they show up. When I make them visible again. So I'm hiding the head, brows, jaw, and neck. And we want to pull the teeth into the teeth in front of them so that it will blend into a single kind of wall. Alright. Now the next thing is you'll notice we have an issue with those teeth right there going into the lip. Let's bring it in just a bit. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Next thing is I'm going to inflate the lip a little. More fiendy, I am using a Wacom Intuos. Up until last year I was using a very, very old Intuos 3. But yeah. Okay, Chris, I did not know about the move along normals. I'm not sure if that's what I wanted to do at the point you're talking about, because I'm not sure what point you made that comment. Anyway, I don't know if you can see, but right now the inflate is at a 5, so it's about where you were saying. Also, this is just. Let's make it a little bit bigger. This right here. Oh, we don't want that. There. This right here is just for the basic rough shape for something that's going to be less than 1.5 inches tall. Actually, since it's as hunched over as it is, probably less than 1 inch tall. And we're going to inflate the entirety of the front lip. because we want to make it overall thicker. We're also going to hit this with smooth, because we're going to be changing that whole shape there. Yes, the next thing is to turn the mouth into that of an actual ghoul, a Lovecraftian ghoul. So we look at it from mostly down, and we're going to a normal move, not a move topological. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the side, we're going to move it, start progressively making the mouth and snout wider, because it's more canine and not as pointed at the end as this is. Yes, blah. See, I don't see a reason to use the move tool instead of inflate, because it sounds like it would make, if it's moving along vertex normals, it sounds like it would make exactly the same effect. You know? So the next thing we need to do, our canine critter, if it's going to look like the one that was posted, we need to go ahead and it actually needs cheekbones, of all things. And we're going to inflate both the top of the brows. We want these to be exaggerated and huge. You know, if they were human, it would be Neanderthalic. And then we're exaggerating the cheekbones because we are eventually going to make all of the bony landmarks. That's areas where the bones are visible through the skin, not like, oh my god, I can see you bleed, but like the bumps on the sides of the wrist that many people have, knuckles, the corners of the jaw, the cheekbones, the forehead. The entirety of the forehead is the bone pushing the skin out a bit. So we're going to make all of the bony landmarks unusually prominent, because they may not be undead, but they kind of look it. And then now the next thing is we're going to pull this out just a bit. And like I said, this is mostly just shaping right now. And I'm going to grab the move topological. I'm going to give them a little bit of a sneer. Let's go back to a regular move, because we want to make sure that we have the teeth coming with. Let's pull it out. Let's do the same thing here. Let's give him a double sneer. Or snarl. Yeah. Okay. I think the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to actually zoom in. We're going to use what's called the slash tool. And what I'm going to use this for at a very low intensity and with the lazy mouse turned off, I'm just going to give a very faint overview of the muscles. Okay, now again, I'm not going to be as perfectly anatomically correct on the muscles as as some people might, but I'm just going to... Okay, that's too strong. It's about the right size, but it's too strong. Let's drop the intensity to 6. And all we're doing is we're just kind of giving the basic location of these muscles, because a lot of this will get smoothed out when I give it a layer of subdivision, which will be coming here in just a minute. And then this goes further like that. And then there's a forearm muscle back here, forearm muscle here, and let's go ahead and do the same thing up on here. Also going to give it a little bit of kind of a small inflate on the back of this elbow. Give it a little bit sharper look than what it currently has. And we frame. We have mostly our basic ghoul. And by the way, as someone who's been desperate to say hello, no, Ralph, you've already said hello. Okay, this is apparently not being a popular broadcast. And I just gotten affiliate too. Okay, I think I need to fix that neck. That neck is looking bad. That neck is looking real bad. So I'm going to go back. It's still on inflate, so let's make the bit rest bigger. Yeah, look bigger, and I am also going to make it smaller and smooth out the whole bit there. And let's go ahead and take that slash again, shrink it, and bring it down this way, and down that way, and bring it down this way, and down that way. Now, I'm going to make a add slash, very weak, and I'm going to draw on, too weak. Draw on where the collarbones would be, and then take inflate, shrink this, and inflate those bony landmarks. Then a bit of smoothing along here. And going to smooth it just a bit. I'm going to smooth that so it fades away as I get closer to the color. Now, frame. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to increase the resolution. We go to geometry. It's right now at 29,000 polygons and 29,000 active points. Oh, I have a white fuzz. Hit divide. And we get times 4. It's 119,000 polygons. But what we want to do right now is we want to do what's called a dynamesh. So to do that, we want actually as high as we can go reasonably. It looks really smooth now. This is a really high detailed mesh, but it's about to go haywire because I'm going to blur of 0, resolution of 512, and dynamesh it. Now what dynamesh does, it effectively shrink wraps the whole mesh explicitly. You can see that these are now blended into a single solid surface. In fact, I can just smooth out that area. Everything that was a separate mesh now isn't. Our shoulder muscle that intersected up here now blends nicely. And the same thing goes over here with the muscles that went in behind the foot, behind the arm. And up here, on the side of the neck. I'm gonna smooth that. That doesn't look as dramatically weird. Okay, now frame again. And I just got a message. Now, the polygon count is 366,000, which is roughly equal to the tier I was going to be at before I started the next state. And it still has quite clearly visible. Zoom out. And let's smooth that just a bit, and that. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to make the knuckles. These things are going to have to be pretty bony, so it's going to be exaggeratedly bony knuckles. Because if I don't do these exaggeratedly, then they won't be as visible when they're printed because they're going to be, you know, barely an inch tall. So we exaggerate. These are the tendons on the back of your hand. Not everyone has all of these tendons for some strange reason. Some people don't have as many, the tendons show as sharply. Others have them show more sharply than most. And we're also going to go ahead and extrude out the wrist bones. Whoops, accidentally marked there. Alright, now I'm going to shrink these back down, and we're going to mark out the knuckles at the end of the first joint. I'm going to blend a little bit, just a little. And then the knuckles at the end of the second joint. So again, we're going to smooth them a bit. Now we're going to have to do the same thing for the thumb. And we're going to smooth it just a bit. And that hand is already looking 100 times better. So we do it for the other one. Alright, now zoom, and let's move to here. One thing about ZBrush is that once you have set a point at which you have started sculpting, it'll use that to pivot around when you go and pivot and reorient your camera. This makes things a lot easier. And once again, we shrink it down just a little bit more and we exaggerate the knuckles and draw out those tendons. And then blend it back to the back of the hand. And then we're gonna add on the wrist bones. Shrink it. And we're gonna add in first joint and second joint knuckles on each finger as we do them. And because your fingers are different sizes, that means that they're going to be at slightly different points along each finger. One thing that is, I think is kind of unusual, did you know that on the average person, the ring finger and the index finger are roughly the same length? Roughly. On the average person. And the hands look a lot better now. Now the next thing is I'm going to make the toes. Or okay. We have one problem, and that's with this back toe. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to move. I'm going to capture the bottom. I'm going to grab that toe and I'm going to make it a little bit pointier. Because I kind of need to. Now I'm going to take the inflate brush once again, but this time what I'm doing is I'm shrinking it down and I'm going to make it a little bit stronger, and I'm going to draw out where these claws are sprouting from on the front of the foot. And then smooth the base of those. And then I'm going to slash in to make it more obvious that it's coming out of that area of the foot. A lot of the geometry I'm doing for this I would not be able to get away with for work, because there's some really sloppy geometry for the purposes of posing or UV mapping, or even rendering in some cases. But with 3D printing, all that matters is the shape, actual at current shape. Okay, and that's that toe, that foot. And now I'm going to do this foot. Back to inflate. And burp. And let's smooth that a bit. And then down. And then down. On the other hand, while I can get away with some forms of sloppy geo for printing that I couldn't get away with professionally, There are some forms of sloppy geo I can get away with in my day job that I can't when 3D printing. Specifically, floating geometry. What that means is I could have these feet, if I was making this for work, end in bare toes. Then make the claws and just have them stuck in there. So, yeah, just stuck in there. The problem is, while a lot of slicers have gotten better about dealing with things like that in recent years, a lot of the older programs couldn't handle it because it's a physical impossibility. You've got you've got parts of your model pretending that they're Kitty Pryde. For those who aren't full geek, that's the X-Men known as Shadowcat. And her superpower is phasing, as in passing through solid matter. Okay. Now the basic shape of the critter. Well, now I need to fix his buttocks since I now have a more even polygon distribution. That's beer, and smooth. Let's bring that smooth back up to 100%. Because with this level of polygon, I need it. Okay. And then we inflate along the back of this one. Oh, way too much. I'm going to end up using move on this just to smooth it out a bit more. Oh, yeah, let's bring this back to 0. And smooth out some of these areas. And flat. In the flat! Yes, it is like an A flat, but it is an in flat. Now we frame it. Yeah, the butt's looking a lot better. Now, if you'll pardon me just for a second, I'm getting some sody pop. Yeah. Now, since we're now at a higher resolution, we can also once again deal with the snout. The snout. So what we're going to do is, if we look at the picture that was posted, the nose of the ghoul is not like a living creature's nose. It's more like an animal skull. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the standard brush, but we're going to go to subtract. Raise it up just a little bit and shrink the brush size. The reason for this is we're basically going to be pushing in the nose area. And we want to push straight in. And that's too big of a brush. So we're gonna and just do it a couple times. Every time I hit one, it does it again. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing, just a little bit, because it's going to make it more organic and not as harsh. at least not down here. Blend that part in. Then I'm going to go back to move. I'm going to move this down a bit. Kind of try and balance it out on the face. I'm going to grab up here and move it out and down, and I'm going to smooth out where the mouth or the eyebrows hit the forehead. I hit frame, and I've got that more canine, almost more demonic than undead, but that's Lovecraft for you. And now it comes time to make the trousers. So to do that, I'm going to increase the geometry even more, back to where I was before. And I'm going to start masking off sections. And where I mask off, I'm going to be extracting. And what that's going to do is it's going to create basically a new piece, a new subtool as it's called, that is, sticks out a bit from the basic mesh wherever I have this masking. Now, yes, ghouls are living and they are not undead. However, they did used to be human in many cases. Not everyone, but in many. That's how they reproduce, is they transform humans. So I'm right now filling in the mask. And what I'm going to do afterwards is slightly different. Yeah, this is I got to try and cover as much of this as I can per go, because if I don't, well. And then let's start calling him Cousin G. He's like, one of the Addams Family cousins. But one of the ones that even they have problems with inviting to their family reunions, because, it's one thing to play Is There a God? It's another to not be able to play again because you got eaten. And he just doesn't understand the concept of why Gomez and Morticia are so happy. They're not even eating their kids. They're not using their fellow relatives as food. I'm assuming that they're probably, the Addams Family are probably virtually immortal, but anyway. Okay, I have a vague, rough section, kind of zigzag, masked off. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and mask that. We're going to shrink it down a bit, and we're actually going to make sections like at the knee where we're going to erase the mask. Areas that have worn through over the years of wearing these same jeans and never getting them fixed because, kind kind of hard to get your genes fixed when you eat the people that come. And it's usually linear tears. And yeah. And no, we're not going to do anything obscene with these. It's just Hulk pants, basically. But instead of being torn because you suddenly went from 185 pounds to 1,850, it's torn because they're old. Frame. Now, I go back up here to Subtool, and they have something called Extract. Now, it just so happens that the default settings for Extract look perfect for the purposes of the scale that we are working on. Now, what we're going to do from here is I'm going to move the ends of this particular tear closer to each other. If I was actually using the correct end of the stylus, I would at least. And I'm going to smooth it out. But because of the way things are extracted, you may notice when I put on these polygroups, while I may have nice squares all throughout the main body of this purple area here, the yellow area only has one polygon stretching the entire width. Well, we don't want that. We want the whole thing. So let's turn that off, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back to geometry, and we're going to 0 blur, 256 resolution, dynamesh it. There. This brings the resolution down, and lets us, work it a bit more. And it also means I can now go in and draw in some wrinkles. Now, we don't need a lot of wrinkles. I'm going to use a standard brush, a moderately small size, moderately high strength. I'm just going to draw in, draw on a couple lines in the direction counter to movement. Yes, counter to movement. I'm then going to smooth in the ends of these wrinkles, because what happens is that they kind of blend out and smooth out. I'm then going to kind of bring these in a bit more. There'd also be a couple of wrinkles here. Let's hide the body simply because it's in the way right now. Now, because those wrinkles are still there, but they may still be there, but, oh, come on. Stop this. No, they're just not as prominent. So, and then there's the ones from behind. Whoop. These are, again, not perfect sculptural wrinkles. They don't need to be. I can make them look a bit better by something else I'm going to do here in just a few minutes. But in general, it's just the suggestion of wrinkles. So that it feels more like cloth when it's not. We're going to add in a very low strength, sharp edge to the underside of each of these wrinkles. Because wrinkles tend to sag. And then also wrinkles tend to be sharp. More so than rounded. This will also help with when these miniatures are being painted. These sharper edges will help catch the surface of a brush that's doing a mesh smooth, while at the same time acting as a peak if the person's not doing a mesh smooth but is instead doing a wash, and not get stuck in the middle of the wash. Now at this size they may not come out well on a standard FDM printer, but on a resin printer they'll come out nicely. And I am now going to Z-sub, increase the intensity, and exaggerate the divide between these, between the calf and the thigh. On the front, and inside, and then just a little Now, I make the body visible again, and let's frame it. And we have pretty much most of it done now in terms of the actual sculpting. Let's zoom out just a little bit, just because it'd be easier to see those hands. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make the base visible again. And yeah, the base can be moved slightly. Move. Forward. Oh, no, that's not. Oh, sorry. You want to select that. Forward slightly and then over slightly. Try and center it better. Now, the next thing that we do, because we want to make sure that this actually comes out just a little bit better, we're going to go to deformation. We're going to inflate it just a little bit to exaggerate the difference between the sections. Then I'm going to grab my move brush right here, and I'm going to kind of drag these sections out a bit because they're hanging down from where the tear is. And the same thing with, let's make it move topological, with over here and over here, and this is going to come out just a little bit, and this definitely out a little bit more. End result, yay! Kind of ratty clothing. Bring this down. And bring this down. Once again, to exaggerate the rattiness of the clothing. And we frame the whole thing. And we need to Alright, now we're going to go back to Subtool. We're going to go back to the ghoul itself. We're going to hit and remove the mask that was on there. And we're going to merge down. Always okay. And once more. And now we only have one subtool. The finished critter. We go to the geometry once again. Let's go ahead, but however, and make it 1024. I can also now put my Wacom tablet up, or at least back into its temporary spot. And let's hit Dynamesh. That's like a... How many of y'all remember Electro Woman and Dyna Girl from the late 70s Saturday morning cartoon shows? Yeah. Okay, and it's done. And we have 3.005 million polygons. We don't need that many. So what we're going to do is we're going to Z-plug in and Decimation Master. We're going to decimate it. Again, because this does not pose anymore. It's now a static frozen object. We don't need to worry about whether the edges flow properly for animation. And one of the new bonus things that came in ZBrush 2018, which is this ZBrush 2018, is presets for Decimation Master. We hit 35K, and it's going to handle everything. It is going to analyze the mesh, reorder vertices, and remesh it with a decimation to have as close to 35,000 vertexes, 70,000 polygons, or as much as it can. And as I said, right about here, right here, you will see an orange line. Computing, please wait. Get more soda. Yeah, see, we can't print 3 million polygons. It doesn't work. And pardon me for the totally potato quality. I'm gonna have to hit escape. And there's an issue, and that issue is it doesn't like this. So I'm gonna undo the Dynamesh, or maybe not. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to reset the Dynamesh for 512. Dynamesh. How did I end up with the same amount of polygons with a lower Dynamesh resolution? Alright. Gonna have to append. Load in that darn base. Lower it. Where's the deformation? Lower it. Actually, let's do it this way. Move. And lower it until it is, yeah, at about there. And then and then over some. And there we go. And it's back to draw, back to subtool, select the beastie, merge down. Let's go ahead and give it a level of subdivision. It is now once again 6 million polygons. And we're going to dynamesh it this time at blur 0, resolution 512. Dynamesh. Okay, much better. 746,000 polygons in the new Dynamesh. And we're going to Z-plug in, Decimation Master, and 35k points, which will be about 70,000 triangles. There we go, and now it's processing. Yay! I hate it when it does that. It just decides to be completely, utterly weird sometimes. And hello, Baloo! Welcome! You have come in at the tail end of making a Lovecraftian Ghoul. Yes, this is going to be this is the second in a row of Sundays where I did Lovecraft, but oh well. And I now have 34,900 and some odd $34,999 points, 70,006 triangles. That's about the resolution I normally will send to my slicer. It is smooth enough and detailed enough that a resin printer will love it nicely, and it's also thick-limbed enough, so to speak, that an FDM printer will have few problems, if any. So, we now export this, and yes, I am saving this into my broadcast miniature simply as Lovecraft Ghoul figure. And save. And it has just saved all 34,999 points. Now let's go ahead and we're going to switch what we're looking at. Now we're going to go to Craftware. Yep. Well, welcome. Now in Craftware, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we are going to add in that new Lovecraft Ghoul figure. We're going to rotate it because I like it. I like to make mine where it's facing into the wind on the fan of my CR10. Now you'll see that I have a nice little 6mm by 6mm by 40mm bar sitting right here. I call this my cooling tower. I select the ghoul, and in scale I see that it is exactly 28mm tall from the ground to the top of its head. So I can take that, I unlink it and make it 30 millimeters. What that does is it's ever so slightly tall than the tallest part of the ghoul. And now it's time for supports. Now, these parts here will not print hanging in midair. Oh, and that's too big. I need to make that 2mm. They will just basically spew plastic out, and as anyone who's ever had that happen can tell you, it's not a happy thing to have happen when you're printing. Now, I'm using a diagonal support there because I don't want the residue on the toe. Put one kind of back here, because we want as little residue on the rest of the figure as possible. Oh, that's going to have a lot of residue, so let's remove that and let's bring it out here. Nope, let's just make it a shorty. So the leg, for example, here will go. Let's see. If I bring it to there, no, that's too far. Well, it looks like I'm going to have this one go onto the top of the toe. The chin is going to go straight down. The side of the face is going to go slightly forward into the side. And the neck right there is going to go down straight. Oh, no, it's not, because if it does, it goes into the hand. So the neck right there is going to go down to there. This is why I love craftware. I can actually change the angle of the supports as I'm placing them. Okay, the butt needs a support back here. So I click on it and I drag to there. And now it's time for the ear. And then the upper arm. And with the upper arm comes the hand. You'll notice that a lot of these supports are going off the base. That's okay. Now, for those who don't know the printing process, what determines whether or not something gets a support is really, does it need it? Something needs supports if without it, it would print into midair. If without it, it would start to droop because it's too far. Or without it, it just doesn't, it just can't print. Alright, that's where I place my supports. If I go back to the object window, the supports are still there, but they're mostly untouchable. I then go and I slice, and I had made a change, 20mm a second. Let's 25mm a second, and the foundation is a raft, but only underneath the supports. Just because. And everything else looks nice, so we hit slice. And this is where it will print. You will notice that I have used quite a lot of the slanting supports that Craftware has available. I'm hoping this turns out well. I go ahead and save. And it's saving to Broadcast Miniatures as Lovecraft Ghoul figure. And that's that. So I can return here. Now, I probably used a lot more supports than I needed to, and I probably really didn't need to, the pose was really dramatic, and it'll look great on a resin printer, but it's a little bit more difficult than it needs to be for an FDM printer. This is Shinju. So I'm going to be printing it overnight. I should have it printed tomorrow. And yay. And I think right now at 5 people, this is about as the most I've had in viewing. Now, Baloo, I mentioned to the people in here that I had a new female figure I've been working on. It should be ready soon. So, coming up soon, I'll be able to do the female types too. Now, next week, what I am going to do is I am going to do a science fiction figure of some kind. Exactly what, I don't know yet. Maybe a soldier, or maybe a power armor superhero. Something. We'll find out. Now, don't forget, on Thursdays, I make extra props, and I make extra body shapes for the basic figure. For example, this Thursday I made a troll for the male figure. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh because I'm having problems with, I've got a massive lag from the computer taking so much of the computing power to completely redo the topology of that beastie. Oh, excuse me. So, does anyone have any ideas what they want to see in a future episode? It might be a Thursday or Sunday up. It might be just a random one-off in the middle of the week. Or it might be just me going back and grabbing my soda. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. Thingiverse is having a problem. Right now, as we sit here, a lot of entries in Thingiverse are inaccessible from the search and the user page of the person who created it. The link that Nightbot will occasionally give to my Thingiverse broadcast collection works. And you can see the things that I've made in this show and put up on Thingiverse. But if you search for example, dwarf, it will not find my dwarf in trench coat with flail and shield, even though it's right there on the collection page, right over there. So, for right now, just be aware that's going to be a problem. Hopefully they'll get it fixed when everyone gets back in the office tomorrow, but you never know. So it is 10:10. I have been broadcasting for a little over 2 hours now. So I would like to say thank you for coming to my show. It wasn't very popular, apparently. People want to know exactly what they're going to be seeing, I guess. Oh, one other thing. I will also be creating a YouTube channel, like I said earlier, where I'm going to be uploading the videos from here. Now, it doesn't have the chat, but oh well. And I'll also be uploading shorter videos on specific matters dealing with 3D modeling and sculpting for 3D printing miniatures. Things like, why are the proportions the way they are in the figures? And thank you, Chris. And if it's 1 p.m. there, then you must be on the other side of the planet from me, Baloo. Are you an Aussie or a Kiwi? From Oceania? Or are you from Asia? Or maybe Australia, or maybe Hawaii. You're welcome, Buzz. So right now I have... Yeah, in Aussie. Yeah, right now I have Baloo, Brandon, Chris, and Buzz sitting here watching me. It says 5, but it's counting me. And occasionally it counts Nightbot, too. Who, if I know Nightbot, will probably be speaking up here any second now with the links and all that information. I'll be honest, I suck at social media and getting attention for things I've done, so if anybody can give me some assistance in a Discord or something, or in my Discord, yeah, don't forget to join my Discord. That's where I'll be doing most of my talking about this. There's also the subreddit 3D printed minis, or printed minis, or whatever it is. I will be showing some of the results in there. So, okay, it is 10:13. I'm kind of surprised that Carlton hasn't been in here. Carlton is my other little black kitty. This little girl is 12 years old. Yeah. You're in the lively topics? I think you mean tropics? Because lively topics usually get, flame wars, not pouring rain. Okay. Well, anyway, I will see you all later. And I will be out as soon as I see my hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.